Awesome. Hello, my name's Ella Meyer. I'm the Quantum Computing Outreach Coordinator here at UBC Gearing Up Engineering Outreach. We're part of the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, BC. I've been in this role for the last 4.5, almost 5 years. And how our organization works with the quantum sector is that going on 6 years ago now, we had a partnership formed between us, the Quantum Matter Institute, D-Wave Systems, Microsoft, and Digital. Um, and through this partnership, we started a program called Diversifying Talent in Quantum Computing, wherein we wanted to do exactly what it says on the tin, diversify the talent pool entering the field of quantum computing. That program ran for 3 years, and we had all sorts of different methods of reaching out to students K to 12 as well as general public education. And then from that point, in the last 2 years, we've shifted into being diversifying talent in emerging technologies so we can better capture the quantum sector as a whole, from computing to sensors to cryptography, and being able to expand our coverage there, as well as giving people a bit more chance to engage with new emerging technologies in things like robotics or other areas of computing.
First question then, Ella. I suppose, what would you say was your defining moment that sparked your journey into quantum technology?
Great question. So there was two components to this. First of all, I did an astronomy degree in university, and so astronomy is just physics, but you do cooler labs. And so I had a background in a couple of quantum courses, but found in university, I struggled to find the in to really understanding how to build the intuition to understand, how to make this feel more natural to learn and to like engage with. And then on the other hand, during university, I worked as a student at Gearing Up. And so after I graduated university, there was an opening to go into like work full time at Gearing Up and then to do it in the quantum sector. And so I was like, oh, I could give all of these kids this sort of intuition and easy into this really, really cool field that I had sort of struggled with. And then selfishly, I kind of get to go back to school and relearn all of these topics I found so engaging, and got to figure out ways to make like rural remote education more accessible and to bring in new ideas all across there. And so it was this really sort of perfect harmony of organization I loved and had done a lot of work with, alongside something I'd learned for a really long time and had wanted to find a way to get back to. And so there was just sort of a perfect intersection of those two things.
That's excellent to hear. Do you know, if you relived that moment, would you do anything differently?
Oh, no. This is kind of the dream job. It's the thing I love learning about. It's the field I'm really interested in. And it's alongside getting to figure out how to give people moments of sort of awe and wonder and spark curiosity. So I'm pretty lucky. This is kind of the dream.
Wonderful to hear. And I do share, a fellow interest in that particular point, given our organization. Ella, next question. Quantum's often described as the next technical revolution, about to hit the earth in that sense. In your view, and from your viewpoint, what do you think will be its most transformative impact on society in the next decade?
Yeah, nice, easy question. Um, Personally, my interest in quantum has always been in it's like workaround optimization. I think is really interesting, and I think in the field is quite robust. And so I think that there is really, really cool things that could happen with shipping, logistics, and supply chain. Um, there was a problem here done between D-Wave, and then we have a local grocery store called Save On Foods. Well, local to Canada. I don't know how local in terms of actual if they're a BC company or not. But they were doing all these home deliveries of groceries, and they were spending 25 hours of computation time a week figuring out where to send trucks in what order. And they partnered up with D-Wave to try to figure out how they could improve this computation time. And they took it from 25 hours of computation time a week down to 2 minutes. There's a really excellent YouTube video on this on D-Wave's channel. And I think that one of the big things is meaningful progress comes from a lot of people making incremental changes all the time. And something like, making the global supply chain more energy efficient, reducing our energy usage and figuring that out in actually having, more robust systems. We saw a few years ago what happened when one ship turned the wrong way in the Suez Canal, and there was massive backlog from that. And so I feel I'm really hopeful that quantum's ability to support those types of like massive optimization problems are hopefully going to make an impact, but I also think are probably going to be a thing that won't make the news. I think it'll just be like noticeable, or actually non-noticeable improvement that like changes everyone's lives for the better, and there'll probably never be a headline about it. But that's the thing I think is the coolest about um quantum computing as I see it right now.
The headline statement's really interesting, Ella, because obviously the change that's a transformative change that can affect, if you take it from logistics as a whole, for so many companies. Or I think you mentioned energy. I've seen co-pilots from Eon on energy doing the same for the next generation networks with all local, supply. I think it will get used because it'll be the first, and it'll be a voice they rush to get out. So I think we'll see it, but I think that'll go quiet after time when it settles in.
Totally. Yeah, I do. I think the initial part might be splashy, and then I think it'll just be this steady improvement to systems that make everyone's lives better behind the scenes.
Yeah,
That I think that's how it'll go, but I'm really excited about it.
definitely. And we're seeing usage of stuff like that in your local taxi app, or local being international taxi provider app that we're all familiar with in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up to our next question then, Alan. So thinking about scaling quantum from a lab to real world applications itself is kind of like a huge challenge. What's the biggest barrier that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
So I want to answer this perspective from the perspective of an educator because that is like my primary role. And so I'm s- the the biggest issue I have faced as it comes to education and getting people to understand and engage with quantum is there is a genuine lack of shared vocabulary. When you want to get people interested in the quantum field or excited about the quantum field, you start from a initial barrier of you are not speaking the same language. I think also, and there's a article floating around on the internet where I've already picked my beef with Paul Rudd. I think also for so long in sci-fi and in media, you know, the unnamed large Superman franchise or superhero franchise is quantum, and quantum science has been the word you put in front of something else to tell people they're not going to understand how it works. It's been we've made something so scientific, it's functionally magic, and we're calling it quantum. And that has been the general, like, popular ingestion of quantum for the last most of the time. That has actually been something that people have talked about. And so the biggest barrier I've faced is, first of all, making it sound less scary. Trying to get people to engage with it in a way that's like, this is like anything else you learned in school. Um, this is not outrageously complicated. It's different, but it's not beyond you, and it shouldn't come from a place of fear. Um, and then alongside that, it's also how do we sort of build up all of the words and concepts that we're going to need to have a meaningful conversation about this. And so you sort of get the uh, calming and supportive, like, no, you can do this. This is encouraging. This is something like you can do. This is a really exciting area alongside, and now let's teach you how to talk about it. And I have found that to be quite challenging. And it's not just with students, it's with, general public. It's when I'm writing grants and trying to ask for funding. It's when I'm looking for partner organizations and people are saying, "Oh, well, we know we want to support kids in coding, but what on earth is quantum?" And I have to justify why this is there, or I'm applying for funding for my program and people start seeing teaching quantum to kids and they go, that will never work, so we're not going to fund it. And like, but it does work. And I have years and years of experience and thousands of children who have gone through this program and it has worked. But you saw quantum and you freaked out.
Mm.
So I think there's really that vocabulary and sense of familiarity with the concept of the field before you can even engage with the field that has been my biggest barrier. And I think to sort of overcome that, it really is about breaking it down, which is funny for quantum, break it down into its most individual components, into its quanta, if you will, and build familiarity with the ideas, especially in ways where you don't start by saying, today we're going to be learning about quantum superposition, because you maybe already lost somebody. Um, I have a principle in teaching that I lovingly call the spinach smoothie method, which is if you've ever tried to give a child spinach in a smoothie, the first rule is it cannot taste like spinach. And so you have to make all of the things about it be delicious and interesting and engaging, and there's quantum inside of it. And now that you've started to have fun and started to engage with it, now I can tell you that there was spinach in the smoothie. And you're okay with it because it was good and it was positive and you feel confident in it.
I can relate to that. And I think human society has a fear of the unknown, as human nature anyway. In there, people fear change, they fear what they don't know. And obviously, communication and language is ultimately key. So I really like the concept of that. I suppose if we gave you an unlimited budget today, what resources or how would you go tackle that at an international or national level?
Oh, what a great question. I think what I would want to do, and this is just off top of mind, so I'm sure me in 3 days would have a more developed answer. But I do think that just making quantum more interesting, more accessible, and feeling friendlier would go a long way. I'm from the generation that grew up on like the original Magic School Bus, and Miss Frizzle is an education icon in science. And I think genuinely having things like, you know, media that portrays quantum as like an interesting new thing and not as functionally magic would be really interesting. Like, what if you had a cartoon that all of the characters exist in a world where there isn't classical mechanics? What if everything in the world is run by quantum mechanics and you have these experiences with tunneling and with superposition and entanglement, but you just let people exist in that world and see how that would play out? I think that would be interesting. I currently have a game developer on my staff and we're building quantum like video games that use quantum mechanics in their gameplay to build intuition that way. I think that is really cool. Um, I think generally that gamification and making it exciting and fun is very important. Um, I would also selfishly just like I love to get to talk about it with people. And so if there's a dream world where I have infinite money and time to do this, like I'd love to write a very, introductory book, go on a book tour about it, donate all of the proceeds to fund more quantum education programs. Um, I'm comfortable. I work for a university. I don't need it. I'd rather pour money into making it easier for more people to learn. I think that would go the furthest. And finding ways to support better general public education. I feel like if you can get that foundation, then you can do all the other really cool stuff. Like I would love, that cartoon series. I would love to be able to do more and bigger video games that we can release for free so people can access them. But I would also love to make sure that every school has a computer lab and that the teachers there have enough like professional development time to know how to teach everyone to use them. And if kids want to form a coding club at their school, they have the support to do that. There are, in-person or online resources they can access, all of those things. I think that you've got to start from a strong foundation, otherwise people immediately fall through. Um,
Yeah.
so I think the twofold, really fun, really cool, flashy, interesting, get attention stuff, and then use all of that to make sure everyone has access.
That's interesting. I think what you're talking about there is societal change, which needs to come from government education level, not just the singular organisation. I look
Yeah.
forward to getting one of the first copies signed of your book. I've got no doubt that will come on there. Reflecting on yourself, next question, which is something you should think about, is if you could give one piece of advice to that next generation of quantum innovators, and this may be something that you're doing every day right now, but what's that message? What would it be?
I think I'm going to turn this into two pieces of advice. One, you deserve to be here as much as anybody else. And two, your education and your life will be broadened immeasurably if you spend a lot of time learning from people who are not exactly like you. And the best thing you can do is to surround yourself with as many different people as you can and then genuinely actively listen. Um, the global quantum community as it exists is not big. We had a conversation about this previously, and it's about 50,000 people globally. Um, and so we could have all gone to the same Taylor Swift concert, and there would have been seats left over. That is not a big group. And so you're really only more than one or two steps away from any other person in this community. And there is a really, at least in my experience, a sort of beautiful, like, democratization of knowledge where people want to share with you, people want to hear what you have to say. And so I think if you show up in the fullness of your own character and genuinely actively listen and want to learn and engage, you're also going to find that people want to actively learn and engage with you and they want to collaborate, they want to share. I've not had anyone, look at my resume or look at my like LinkedIn and be like, well, you only did a bachelor's degree, so we're not working together. And instead, people have been like, oh, well, tell me about what you've done. And there's, I think, something really to be said in quantum for find the people who are really interesting. They're everywhere. Learn, actively listen, learn as much as you can, and then understand that as hard as it can feel, you also have a place here and people feel the same way about you and actively want to learn from and listen to you. And if you are able to sort of provide that forward and say, this is what I do. I don't know anything about, quantum sensors research, but I do know a lot about how to make certain topics digestible. you can share that information and, rising tides lift every single boat.
Very true. And that's a collaborative point. They all have their own uniqueness and interest, but the common boundary there is that they're all excited coming into that on quantum on there. Oh, great words. Wonderful to hear. Next question and final question for you. And really, I suppose this is one that's personal to everyone, but looking ahead, what breakthrough or collaboration excites you most about a future of quantum or a quantum future? Whether personally or on a professional level, you can take that anywhere. What excites you the most about where this can go? Where do you see it?
Yeah, I think the collaboration I'm most excited about is I'm part of a group called Quantum BC, which is a collaboration between Simon Fraser University, the University of Victoria, and the University of British Columbia. And it is so incredible to watch all of these researchers across three universities work so hard to make sure that students have the best quantum education they can get in the province. And currently, we have this program. It's called the NSERC Create in Quantum Computing. And there is an agreement between the three universities where students doing graduate degrees can take courses from any of the universities and get credit at their home institution. And so this quantum ecosystem is really developing. And there is this really like open, supportive sharing of each other's students, of information, of working together, building courses. And that is so, so exciting to me because I feel like universities can get very strict and very siloed in like this is specifically UBC programming that UBC students will attend. And if you didn't apply to UBC, you can never do this thing. But that's not the approach that these universities are taking here, and it's wanting to make sure that more people can take the courses that are interesting to them, that support their graduate degrees, and all of the professors are interested in collaborating and working together. Like I work very closely with professors from SFU and UVic all the time, and that's you get that sort of thing when you're writing research papers across institutions maybe, but it's more focused on that sort of general like education and learning experience, which I think is so cool. And so sort of throughout all that, we're also hosting Quantum Days, which is Canada's flagship quantum conference. That's happening in the University of Victoria in just a couple weeks here. And so many folks across all the universities are working so hard to make that happen. And I think it sort of reflects globally. One of the things I'm most excited about and what I've mentioned a couple times now is the global quantum community is so connected. And I think over time, I really think that those connections are going to get stronger and we're going to see more and more and more opportunities for people from different universities to work really closely together, to, publish together, to do all these things in a way that because the community is so small, it feels so personal. Um, there's, another one with where UBC has a program with a university in Germany, and we have graduate students who get a like they like I believe they like co-graduate from the university. And so we've had students from that and lots of exchange students from like Tokyo, and we have a really strong relationship there. And for me, the everything about it's all entangled. Everything about the future of quantum is about the people in quantum. Nothing discovers itself. And so I love being part of Quantum BC. I love getting to see my like local academic landscape be so dedicated to common cause there. And I'm really, really excited about what that's going to bring in the future.
That's fascinating. I like to hear of that more on the international level, just than the local level, as you was explaining. I suppose with an open shopping list there, if you could collaborate with any organization that you don't do now or any individual, who would it be and why?
Oh, what a great question. Oh, what's my absolute moonshot? I feel like my immediate answer, because I just love science communication so much, was Hank Green. Um, the he's an incredible like science YouTuber and author. Because I am just more in that sort of general public education space. I had a really cool opportunity a couple of years ago where I was talking with some folks from Sandbox AQ, which is an Alphabet spinoff. They're based in New York, and I've had a opportunity to in the past talk to their head of education, Mariana, who is an absolute powerhouse of a woman, and that was really cool to me. Um, I think the big ones for me are anywhere quantum's currently not touching as much. Like obviously the US has a ton, and that's not the case for Sandbox, but um I think it'll be really cool to, you know, go to places I know very little about and learn how they're approaching the field, understand what their, pros and cons and educations are, what challenges they're facing. Um yeah, there's my real answer is anyone and everyone who wants to talk to me about quantum, and we will figure out something to do together. I'm I'm pretty loosey goosey when it comes to doing collaborations. I think if your heart's in the right place and you're as excited about this as I am, we're gonna make something great together.
Love it. Bring them all on. Best answer you can give. Fantastic. Well, Ella, thank you for your time. We've really enjoyed this session and appreciate your time. You coming on board.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it.